July 2001, a unique inscribed tablet of stone mysteriously appeared in Israel. It was an archaeological marvel that seemed to solve one of the Bible's great riddles. Tested by some of Israel's top scientists, it revealed that in the heart of Jerusalem 3,000 years ago, one of the legends of the ancient world had really existed. The magnificent Temple of Solomon. But that was just the beginning, for there was another mystery hidden within the stone, one that would have shattering consequences around the world. Tonight, Horizon tells the extraordinary story of King Solomon's Tablet of Stone. In Jerusalem during the summer of 2001, a secret meeting took place that would shake the world of archaeology.
The story starts when this very renowned professor receives a mysterious phone call from a person by the name of Izakzu. He is asked to meet him with another renowned professor. This person appears with a briefcase. He opens up the briefcase and very dramatically takes out this beautiful black stone with an inscription on it. They look at the stone and it's beautiful, it's important. They're amazed.
The mysterious stranger was a private investigator, and the inscription on his black stone was in ancient Hebrew. What it revealed was a wonder. For the inscription seemed to offer proof of something long searched for, but never found. That nearly 3,000 years ago, in the center of Jerusalem, there really had existed the place the Bible calls the House of the Lord. The magnificent Temple of Solomon.
The biblical tradition tells that when Solomon built the temple and dedicated it, the first thing he did was he brought into the temple the Ark of the Covenant.
The temple was built to house the Ark of the Covenant, the shrine containing the 10 Commandments, the Word of God written in stone.
So the temple symbolized God's personal residence on earth among his people in his chosen city.
The Bible describes the Temple of Solomon in awestruck terms. The main room was paneled with cedar and overlaid with fine gold. The king also ordered his workers to make 2 winged cherubim and cover them with gold.
According to the biblical story, the temple in Jerusalem lasted from the time of Solomon in the 10th century until it was destroyed in 586 BCE by the armies of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon.
And that has been the source of the mystery ever since. For even though the Bible describes Solomon as the grandest of the Old Testament kings with a mighty empire, no trace of him, his empire, or his temple has survived. The Bible said Solomon's temple stood on the Temple Mount, in the heart of Jerusalem. Today, one of Islam's holiest mosques stands there. At its edge is the Western Wall, where Jews from around the world come to offer their prayers. But this wall was never part of the Temple of Solomon. It was actually built almost 1,000 years after Solomon. With this lack of evidence, some archaeologists began to doubt much of the Solomon story.
There are a few pottery shells from the 10th century on the ground, a wall here and there maybe, but nothing monumental. We are left with no archaeological evidence for the great kingdom of Solomon. We are left only with a text, and the text was put in writing relatively late.
But all that was before the discovery of the stone. A few months after the private investigator revealed the stone in the Jerusalem hotel, he took it to one of the country's leading scientific establishments, the Geological Survey of Israel. Here, experts were asked to determine the stone's authenticity on behalf of its anonymous owner. One of the first things scholars noticed was that the stone was black, like Israel's only other royal inscription from the same period. Then they looked at the wording of the inscription. This described detailed building repairs to a temple, carried out by King Jehoash, who had lived a century after the time of Solomon, while his temple still stood. The Bible describes similar repairs to the Temple of Solomon, carried out by King Jehoash. The passage in Kings 2, chapter 12, begins by describing King Jehoash raising money for the repairs.
Jehoash said to the priests, "All the money, current money, brought into the house of the Lord as a sacred donations, have it donated for the repair of the house."
Similarly, the inscription showed Jehoash raising money for repairs.
I, Jehoash, son of Ahaziah, king of the land of Judah, when the vow of each person in the land and in the desert was fulfilled, to give silver of the holy offerings a plenty.
Then, when the money was raised, the Bible continues,
They in turn shall strengthen the damage in the house, wherever damage may be found.
and the stone said,
I repaired the construction, and I made the repairs in the temple and the walls all around.
Professor Horowitz was sure the stone and the Bible were describing the same events.
I think that we're speaking about the same royal act of repairs in the temple, and the language is also rather similar.
So, according to both the Bible and the stone, King Jehoash first raised the funds and then repaired the Temple of Solomon, 100 years after it was built. But the scientists at the Geological Survey still needed to be absolutely sure that the stone really could have come from the Temple of Solomon. So the geologists subjected it to rigorous tests. Using a scanning electron microscope, they set out to determine its authenticity. First, they looked at the patina, a thin surface layer that forms over time on the outside of a rock or stone.
As we see in this sample, we have a very thin brown layer that about 1 millimeter thick that covers the sample.
The formation of a patina is caused by the interaction of chemicals in air, water, or soil with minerals in the stone itself.
In this one, we see it's a brown, and we can see that it may be thicker or thinner, but it covers all around, it goes all around the sample.
A patina develops slowly and may take thousands of years to form. The geologists studying the stone found that the patina was continuous across the front of the stone and, crucially, within the inscribed letters. This meant the inscription must have been carved in the distant past. Next, the geologists analyzed the chemical makeup of the patina. They were looking for calcium carbonate and other chemicals, which would tell them if it had formed in the Jerusalem area.
They found that the trace elements like strontium, iron, magnesium, and other elements that are in the calcium carbonate, they had exactly the same proportions as in the patina in the Jerusalem area.
The patina confirmed that the stone came from Jerusalem and that the inscription really was very old. The big question now was, how old? Although it was impossible to date the stone itself, luckily, within the patina, there were minute particles of charcoal, and these could be carbon dated. The results were conclusive. They were 2,300 years old, so the carving beneath the patina had to be even older. There was no doubt. The stone came from the Jerusalem area, and the inscription was thousands of years old. And there was one last discovery that helped clinch the case that it came from the Temple of Solomon. The patina contained tiny flecks of gold. Just what you'd expect from a stone that had been through a fire in a temple lined with gold. In January 2003, the Geological Survey officially pronounced the stone to be genuine. Finally, the existence of Solomon's magnificent temple had been confirmed. And the implications were staggering. If the temple existed, the legend of King Solomon was true. And that meant an extraordinary section of the Bible could be verified as history. For millions of people of different faiths, the authentication of the stone tablet was a fantastic affirmation of their belief. Here was a genuine archaeological find that correlated almost word for word with a biblical episode that happened nearly 3,000 years ago. But for the stone itself, the next stage was to find a fitting home. And one place seemed ideal: the Israel Museum in Jerusalem.